Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is WRRF, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for the New World Last Days of Europe as the West Russian Revolutionary Front. Now, last video, at least the last video that actually went up, we went ahead, picked a People's Marshal. We're trying to figure out agriculture or situation as of now. So, that's going okay, all things considered. Fun fact, I actually tried to record this already, but I guess I didn't hit the record button properly. So, that's going into the lost tape section, I guess, and we're never going to see that part again. So, alas, the show must go on. So what we're going to do, let's see. It turns out this was a horrible button to press, because that did fucking nothing for us. And, well, it's going to do nothing for us. Okay, expand oil refineries, or let's meet with Voroshlov. God, I wish I could undo this button, because it's not going to do much for us, but what are you going to do? Other than sit and have an existential crisis, but I do that anyway, without TNO pushing me along, so, you know, that certainly helps, you know. Scavenger some loot, which I think we'll go ahead and do. And from here, yeah, not get up a video uploaded on Tuesday, which I do apologize for. Hopefully this is going to go up on Wednesday. If it comes out later, I apologize for that as well. Shit happens. Unfortunately, Memorial Day, a little busy there. Had some plans pop up. Again, I thought I'd record a part for the day. Turns out I didn't. So, here we are. I'm gonna go ahead. Let's get working on Let's examine the stockpiles. When the front retreated to Arkhangelsk following the end of the West Russian War, it hurriedly secured its most vital equipment into a number of vast warehouses. Having no use for these tools, the officers did not open them, as their maintenance would only impose an undue burden on an overstretched front. However, High Command now wonders whether or not these stockpiles may have held canned food and other useful rations in addition to equipment. We'll send our soldiers accompanied by commissars into these warehouses, tasking them with finding supplies for the front. If they find these, they would transport these into our storehouses, from which we can distribute it to the men equally. Though not magical tablecloths that we can summon feast from nowhere, any scraps that we can find will help the front. Even after it is dead and long gone, the old Union still finds a way to feed its children. Possibly. It also could just be nothing. But let's assess the agricultural situation. Yulia carried the food rations home. Even with a diminished supply of food, it was difficult for her to bring everything back home by herself. Her husband toiled in his factory at the time of the day, and could not help her bringing home the family supplies for the week. Once home, the food was unpacked and set in front of her on the table. A careful balancing act had to follow. Her husband received a fair share of the week's calorie supply. Reducing his allotment any further might lead to him collapsing in his workshop. Factory work was energy intensive. Steel flour from Komi made up a lot of the week's food. She reserved some of the canned vegetables for Alyosha. The boy had recently gone over a nasty flu, and he needed the extra vitamins. On and on her calculations and allocations went. Eventually, she had a good idea of how to stretch out the food for the week. Yulia could not help but notice that the week's total was smaller than the previous week. A border conflict in the south had disrupted the transport network. That must have delayed food imports considerably. Adding to the issue was the year's meager harvest. Farming this close to the Arctic Circle was not a simple proposition. As a result, the front's government had to dip into its food reserves every year. The increasingly low level of stockpiles was an open secret. The region faced starvation within the next few years if nothing was done. And there was not Yulia could do about it. In the summer month, she would have access to her small garden plot anew. There, at least, she would come across a few extra nutrients for the family's need. Not much food to go around, though. Not much to go around. Let's get some industrial investments going, though. Hopefully that will help us along. Ooh. By now it was a clear power struggle had begun amongst the highest ranks of the entire front. Espionage, distrust, and contention ruled every day of every week of every month. Every peasant who existed under the Red Banner knew it would all come to a head, eventually, but all they could do now is keep their heads low and hope it doesn't boil over. But it takes more to win a struggle than just playing favors and getting on the good side of people far more. Excuse me. And Zhukov knew this better than anyone. It took some more, unscrupulous activities to bring defeat to your enemies, and that was simply what it took. As such, it should be that some light spying should be conducted. Under the cover of night, an order went out. Smersh agents unloaded into libraries, filling offices and history retention centers. All of them had one goal in mind, and that was Zhukovs, more specifically, his past. It's no secret that the Red Napoleon is a man with a dark past at best, and many troops tell the tales of violence and suppression under his boot. But to truly upend his position, some real dirt must be found, not just a count of scared shitless potato farmers and circulating rumors as old as the air they travel on. And so was that file cabinets were raided and torn asunder, libraries pillaged for information even loosely related to the man in question. For weeks on, agents would be hunched over their desks, studying and peering at incriminating documents after incriminating documents. Something would eventually come up, and all it took was a little bit of time. And so it was that Zhukov waited patiently. He smiled, knowing he would finally have something to wipe that stupid grin off Zhukov's face once and for all. He wouldn't know what hit him. Well, something has to come up first. Zhukov was starting to get frustrated, waiting so patiently. It had been weeks since he had sent the order out, yet nothing had returned. Not even a murmur about some big find, a smoking gun, nothing. But he knew it had to be there somewhere. Somewhere among the thousands of paper trails, document boxes, and file cabinets. It had to be, and so they pressed on. The Smersh agents were really getting quite tired, but that's their job after all. Or at least they were told. As long as they kept hunched over their desk, magnifying glass kept sturdy over the fading ink, they would find something. So the work went on. Paper trails, which were first said to be promising, were found to be nothing but dead ends, brick wall after brick wall. Agents were up so late into the night doing work that they shouldn't dare to be doing, not behind the Red Napoleon's back, that their wives began to worry. But it had to be there. Eventually, on one especially cramped human day at the office, a worker's hands excitedly shot up. He grasped in his perspiring fist a document, the end-all, be-all. Or so it was in his bloodshot eyes. The work foreman came over and snatched it away. The paper traveled up through the ranks, read by many eyes, and promised to be greater than it had the last time. Eventually Zhukov held it in his hands, peering at it closely, rereading some paragraphs a million times over. Yeah, something had to be there. They found almost nothing at all. And it seems the smoking gun Zhukov had also wished for did not exist after all. The documents brought up so high were really just very small, insignificant mishaps and actions which happen on a daily basis. The only incriminating reports were found were those of a cruel day at Tambov, where Zhukovs slaughtered dozens. But this is already well known, a permanent stain on an otherwise proud reputation. And now Zhukov slinks away in a study. The Smersh agents packed up their operations, disappointed beyond measure that despite all their hard work, nothing could be found. Yet even more bad news arrived to deepen the blow. A little birdie told Zhukovs all about what Zhukov had just done, what he had the Smersh agents do, and he is not happy. Not one bit. Behind locked doors, he screams for Zhukov's head so he can punt it into the White Sea. The agents who conducted the digging found and thrown into the deepest cellars, miles beneath Arkhangelsk. Of course, old Zhukovs will have to wait on these wishes just for another while. Despite the fact Zhukov found nothing truly big, nobody's happy with Zhukovs by any means. It's always believed he's done quite a few shady things, and this only piles on to the rumors. After all, there is always the next opportunity to stab at the others. Just gotta wait for it. So, the factionalism is low. It's not minuscule anymore, but what are you gonna do? Walking in through the doorway of Voroshilov's office, Zhukov felt as nervous as he had the first time he'd done it. This door always had a feeling of grandeur to it, like the conversations he's about to hold will decide the fate of many thousands of lives. And more often than not, it did. Zhukov! I'm glad. I'm glad he made it. Come in. Come in. Have a seat. Voroshilov rasped out as soon as he stepped in the room. His health was not getting any better, and it showed by the day. His haggard old cough seemed to grow weaker every time he saw him. It was clear he was not long for this world. Not anymore. Yes, well, I'm sure you know why I'm here by now, sir. Zhukov nonchalantly let out as he took a rest on the surprisingly cushioning yet firm chair. It was likely several decades old, but showed no signs of wear. Expertly made surely. Of course, you brought the reports. Voroshilov put a shaky arm to his mouth and doubled over on the desk. So, this is funny. I went ahead and, it turns out, how do I put this? After Mr. Voroshilov has a little coughing, fit, it turns out it was so bad that the microphone got unplugged. And I tried to plug it back in, but the audio wouldn't pick up again, so I had to fucking restart the whole thing. My whole computer. So, here we are. Sir? Zhukov instinctively raised a hand to help his commander, but Voroshilov swatted it away and sat up fast. It's nothing. Carry on with your report. Zhukov had made this monthly report hundreds of times before, and reading the words, he never once had to glance at the page. The contents of the meeting mattered little anymore, simply the circumstances. As Zhukov said his goodbyes and stepped from the room, it was clear it had gone well. Voroshilov was evidently pleased to see Zhukov, more so than he ever did old Tukhachevsky. Zhukov almost laughed as he strode down the hallway. How could he possibly lose out with favors so lined for him? It was too good to be true. Which tells me that it might be too good to be true, and that we're going to lose. Probably not, though. We'll probably be fine. Our political power is actually fucking dog shit, Jesus. But, we'll figure that out soon enough, maybe. Hopefully. Probably. Probably not, actually. This fucking industrializer's kind of whooping our ass a little bit when it comes to that. So right now, that's really all we need. Well, that's what we need the most, political power. So, what are you gonna do? Let's get some investments in Utka going. To the southeast of Arkhangelsk, Marshal Zhukov rules his domain of Utka. Despite his old age and experience, Zhukov has never abandoned his belief in an ideal Soviet system, perceiving the former Union foundations for his ideological basis. To him, war is but an end. Soldiers are workers, organized to fight and defend the revolution. In Utka, the factories toil, but not for war, but to provide the necessities for the people there. If we choose to invest in Zhukov's vision, we will have him send his officers and representatives to plan and coordinate our economic activity. When the time comes, this investment will repay the front in more than just guns, but in the contentment and even happiness of the worker. Approving of this measure would mean that we accept Zhukov's influence within Arkhangelsk, but we do not doubt him in the war, and we shall not doubt him now. Here we go. We could raid Onega, but that sounds like a horrible idea, so I don't think we'll do that. How's Kasha doing? He's doing okay, all things considered. Brazil has won the cup. Woo! Oh, speaking of Brazil, this is the, just earlier today they announced that, Cold Southern Springs is being integrated into TNO proper, which is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Seeing how that ends up turning out. For Kuta, huh? You sly dogs, you. Hold on. Investments in Utka done. There we go. There are those troops. They disappeared for a second. We'll just go ahead and put this in the corner for now. We got a couple days to worry about that. Let's start with... Let's relocate industry eastwards. The industry that serves as a backbone of our military has, for years, remained far more vulnerable than it needs to be. Many factories sit right on the border, easy targets for raids by both air and land. Inspired by an obscure proposal made during the Second World War, one of our logisticians has suggested that we make a concentrated something. I think they made a concentrated effort to move as much heavy industry as possible to Utka, where it will be far less enticing as a target for German bombers and practically untouchable by land assault. Such an effort will take at least a month and a great deal of organizational skill, but as always the Red Army is up to the task. Once our workers and their workers have been moved to safety, we will quickly begin reaping the benefits from increased output that is sure to result. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think I mentioned this in the first video, but this is also the... I'll back down so easily. It's the first series that I've done since enemies defeated. Very nice. First series I've done since we've rebranded the channel to Mr. Dogboat 333. In case you guys didn't notice, we've done a rebranding. It's no longer the Dogboat show. This is a Mr. Dogboat 333 show. It's easier to branch out. I could do a Mr. Dogboat 334 or something if I want to do vlogs or something. I don't fucking know, but I could do it. It's snappier, it's less confusing, it sounds less like a politics show or some sort of media show, which that's not what I do here. This is what I do. I make shitty videos where I scream into a microphone and play strategy games. That's a way to do it, I think, personally. Anyway. Winters come to Croatia. Feels bad for Tito. Relocate industry eastwards. There we go. I'm trying to think what we should get rushing down to. That infrastructure wouldn't be too bad. Army professionalism wouldn't be bad either. Let's get some ration calculations figured out. At the end of a West Russian war and the subsequent rebellions of reactionaries and traitors in the south, the front now maintains power only over the White Sea coast and environs. While we have endured these difficult years, life in the north is not without its drawbacks. The land here, though vast and seems almost limitless, is cold and the soil is not arable. Through rationing, the food so far has lasted, but for how long no one knows. To alleviate the pressure on our food stocks, we must change the rationing system, reforming it to be more egalitarian and scientific. Our officers will calculate the rations based on calories, giving every loyal soldier on the front their minimum to survive for the day. Though this is a hard and undeserved burden, socialism expects us all to share our joys and hardships. There we go. You know, it's not pretty. And no one's eating anything. But hey, that was what China had to deal with, and look how they're doing now. No one had food in China. Or Ukraine in real life, and well, look how Ukraine's doing right now. It's I forget if the Holodomor happened in the Matino timeline. I don't think it did, but they're going through something probably worse. Arguably worse. I don't know the exact details of the Ukrainian people in Ukraine, other than it is not nice right now. So yeah, that's a little concerning, but what are you gonna do? Other than, let's go ahead and meet with Yakovlev. Alexander Yakovlev, one of the most powerful officials in Utka, has become increasingly infamous in Arkhangelsk for his promotion of reformist ideas. Yakovlev has been especially critical of the present system of war communism. While dissent may be difficult to in these times, we should arrange an opportunity to hear his ideas out. Who knows? They may have some ideas. Some merit, after all. He has ideas, obviously, but merit, who knows? Arkhangelsk has never been meant to be the capital of a front, and the chaos that followed the front's collapse in the 50s, the long march north had seen the Red Army drag everything it could away from the German army and their Russian confederates. The fallback position had always been Syktyvkar, well stocked in weapons and equipment, but the accursed Luftwaffe had bombed important buildings just as the Red Army and leadership columns entered the city. In the ensuing panic, the leadership had decided to move further north from a compromised city. By the time the dust had settled, Syktyvkar slipped from the front's control and into the hands of a young coming republic. It had been nearly a decade since then, and the mess of records had only been partially resolved. The commissar, doing the day's research work, knew that the government had a good idea of the food stockpile level, not very high, and of how long they would last, not very. But proper numbers were critical. Running out of food a month early could have catastrophic consequences. Letting crates of food go bad without using them would be equally intolerable. And so the front's deadly calculations were carried on every day. Projected food reserves were stretched over projected calorie needs for factory workers, pregnant women, soldiers, children, and everyone else. Every new crate of food made a real difference in the life of the front citizens. Someday we won't need all the stale food. The day probably isn't coming anytime soon, but it's a nice idea, isn't it? Oh yeah, I'm going to cut this video short soonish just because I need to get working on editing this so I can merge the two parts together. And then I should probably record another part for Thursday. And I'm hoping I'll have more time to record on Thursday. Probably not, but I'm hoping I might get some. Anyhow, oh, we can build some new stuff. Let's go working on schools. We already have a bit going to our academic base, so I think it'll be a good idea to get it up higher. Not just, you know, it's better to have... I think I'd rather that be a little higher. Anyhow, so, we have a harsh truth to face right now. The discussion of Alexander Yakovlev has changed a number of minds in the halls of government. While the ideas of war communism had their uses during Suvorov or when the original right armies rose up in the name of their czar, we have found ourselves exploiting far too much for far too little gain. The long-term survival of the front will not be assured if the lands we control slip through our fingers as we tighten our grip. Reform to our practices may indeed be necessary. There we go. And with that, I'm also going to have to do the necessary and cut the video here, just because I got to cut something together and get something recording before I have to go to bed. So, thanks as always for watching, boys. If you like the video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content feature, hit the sub button for uploads every weekday as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concern, anything sort, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get. Appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat, play games, anything sort, check out my Discord down link below. If you want to send me $2 every month, I have a Patreon. If you want to see me do such a live, all that is in my Twitch. Also, all those in the description box below. That's it for now, boys. Thank you for watching. My name has been DB333. See you guys next time. Goodbye.